Tonight on the Black Channel, we discuss targeting the ordinary black citizen. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel. And I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, I've actually got a few things that I want to cover and need to cover here as well. And just to make things very, very clear here tonight, because we've had a few suspected white supremacists who've shown up early for this program. So to make sure that they don't get left out, if you are told to call in by the mods, we'll open up the phone lines immediately. And you will have to call in. If you don't, you'll be banned. Either which way works perfectly fine. You have to understand, when they're on the ropes and they're losing or they're worried, they show up for certain things. Individuals with white supremacist tendencies or white supremacist leanings, they show up for certain things. When they see certain things happening, then all of a sudden you start to see them get vocal. You start to see them go around. You start seeing them speak up when they think they've found something. Now, I've been following the case of the Mallerys out in Colorado for a while now. And you all know me. I don't just jump up and say anything. I don't just jump up and defend anybody. If I jump up to say, when I do stand up to say something, I've usually done some checking on it to see exactly what's going on. And in the case of the Mallerys, what I've been doing is not just reading things online or whatever. I've also been checking to see what the local news has to say about this. And now that the local news there in Denver, Colorado, has started to get involved here, it's kind of exactly what you would assume would be occurring. That all of a sudden, once you start asking questions and the media does something resembling their jobs, then all of a sudden, you start getting non-answer answers. All of a sudden, you start getting the police talking out of both sides of their mouths. Right when they say, oh, we're going to clear all this up. Next thing you know, they start talking out of both sides of their mouths. So what I want to do here, I could say a lot, but what we're going to do, we're going to go here and take a look at channel 7 there. Not sure why they brought up the wrong one, but channel 7, and they're discussing exactly what they want to do about that. Channel 7 has the story, and this was from a couple of days ago, 3 days ago here. And hear what they had to say.
New tonight at 6, two black ranchers in rural El Paso County say their cries for help and allegations of racism have been largely ignored by the sheriff's office for years.
And you've likely heard some of the Mallery story, which has been shared thousands of times on social media now. Those viral posts have led to national scrutiny over how the El Paso County Sheriff's Office has handled more than 2 years of disputes between the couple and their neighbors. Now they're speaking exclusively to Denver 7 on camera together for the first time.
And Denver 7 7's Micah Smith has tonight's exclusive that now has El Paso County deputies defending their actions.
Farming while black in America. Farming while black in America.
The voice you hear is Nicole Mallery's, and the person being arrested is her husband, Courtney C.W. Mallery. The Mallerys are black ranchers in rural El Paso County and say this moment is the culmination of years of blatant racism by community members and the El Paso County Sheriff's Office's failure to respond.
A lot of their pets have been poisoned and killed. Some of their livestock has been poisoned and killed.
Dr. Vern L. Howard is teaming up with Portia Prescott and Rashad Younger from the NAACP to help the Mallerys.
Basically, the Mallerys have been harassed on their property and on their land.
At that point, it became very clear that they weren't necessarily safe.
Animals poisoned and killed, a couple feeling harassed and terrorized. Huge claims that we'll break down. But first, how do we go from the Mallerys being seen as victims to the ones in handcuffs?
Okay. There's something to keep in mind here about this, and I want you to keep in mind about the ranch part of it. I want you to keep that in mind about the ranch part of it. Just keep that in mind.
Harassed and terrorized. Huge claims that we'll break down. But first, how do we go from the Mallerys being seen as victims to the ones in handcuffs? Multiple complaints from the Mallerys' next-door neighbor. It's clear there's years of animosity on both sides of this easement road, and it's this road that has been center stage for many of their interactions. Like CW and Nicole walking between the properties with their hands up, yelling, "Hands up, don't shoot." The affidavit mentioned a 19-page log that the neighbor maintained was supporting video and photos of each interaction she considered to be stalking. But when it came time for the investigation, it wasn't her cameras pointed at them, but the Mallery's cameras pointed toward her property that deputies confiscated.
Did you get that? Did you get that? So when the sheriff's department did act, they went and grabbed the Mallery's cameras, not the neighbor's cameras, the Mallery's cameras. You see, when you start hearing things like that, that's the thing that makes your ears go up. It's like, wait a minute, this is real crazy, weird behavior, and you're showing your white supremacy now. What you're doing, that's not the way that's not the way investigating a case works. It seems like you picked a side here and that you're on the side of white supremacy when you see things like that happen.
The affidavit in hand, we went to the Mallery's ranch. It was a windy day, so we met inside our news car. After talking for nearly an hour, the Mallerys finally agreed to do their first sit-down interview with me.
You remove the only support that I have and the only other eyes I have to try to catch what's going on around me.
CW said the sheriff's office is using video caught on the neighbor's security cameras against him, but his cameras were removed. I asked him why he'd walk by their neighbor's home with hands in the air.
My cows were loose, so we went down there, got our cows, and we pushed them back the way they came out. And as I said, we need to put our hands up and say, please don't shoot us. We're just getting our cows. Please don't shoot. We're just getting our cows.
Let's be clear. I just want to revisit that. Me putting my hands up, us putting our hands up, and is a safety. As an African American,
it's been said a lot that this is a land dispute between neighbors.
How the hell do you get arrested for that? What part of that is a criminal offense? And by the way, don't worry, you're going to hear from the sheriff, all right? You're going to hear from the sheriff, and as usual, guilty as sin. As usual. By the way, because you have to understand, if you're in the right, it should be very easy to prove you're in the right, very easy and very simple to explain. When your explanation is real crazy and real odd and real convoluted and it backs up on itself and it falls over another direction and it goes off in logical dead ends or crazy directions that make no sense, that's when people know, Okay, you're probably lying. It ain't rocket science.
Is a safety. As an African American,
It's been said a lot that this is a land dispute between neighbors. That's what it boils down to. And that you all or your neighbor could choose to avoid each other because you have so much land. What is your response to that?
let me be clear about something. I do not have a neighbor dispute. My dispute is with El Paso County Sheriff's Department for enabling this behavior.
Nicole says one deputy in particular, who she's filed multiple complaints against, is leading the charge.
In what I believe is a modern day KKK assault against my family.
That's not a small accusation to make, but Nicole says Facebook comments and a community page turned to blatant racism after the sheriff's office got involved. Comments like, "I was amazed at how much property was tagged Black Lives Matter. Didn't expect that kind of in-your-face crap way out here. Let's all go have car issues on that road." And, "Are there any restrictions on size of pitchforks and fire sticks in Colorado?" From there, Nicole says it turned to physical attacks.
Animals being gutted, our lives being threatened, people being sent to our home.
So you see what she's saying there. As soon as the sheriff's department got involved, here come a bunch of posts on social media, and now it's not just complaints from the neighbors anymore. Once the sheriff's department got involved, all of a sudden, we got the Ku Klux Klan tactics and the Jim Crow tactics against their farm and their property.
Are there any restrictions on size of pitchforks and fire sticks in Colorado? From there, Nicole says it turned to physical attacks.
Animals being gutted, our lives being threatened, people being sent to our home under threat of lynching, hanging, pitchforks, fire. We had a chicken coop set ablaze.
I asked the Mallorys what the sheriff's office did in response.
Nothing. Actually, I think maybe what happened was they were trying to figure out how to charge us with a crime.
Since the time of Mr. Mallery's arrest, my office has received numerous emails and calls with people voicing concern with how we have handled the Mallery situation.
On Tuesday afternoon, Sheriff Joseph Roybal finally answered questions about the case that's gone viral on social media and shared body camera video painting the Mallorys as combative and unwilling to cooperate in unrelated investigations. But the sheriff's office provided few details about the Mallory's current claims of.
All right, now, to anybody here who wants to try to defend the sheriff, by the way, to anybody here wanting to try to repaint this or flip this to something else, listen to what the reporter, not me, not Jason Black, not anybody else, listen to what the reporter has to say. When they started asking questions and they started asking for documents, first, the Black family says there's a problem with the sheriff. Now listen to what the reporter at Denver Channel 7 has to say.
Viral on social media and shared body camera video painting the Mallorys as combative and unwilling to cooperate in unrelated investigations. But the sheriff's office provided few details about the Mallory's current claims of harassment and racial discrimination. The one concrete update was the decision by the sheriff to review 24 prior cases. In the end, they reopened 2, one of which involves the Mallorys as the victims. And the sheriff said he more than anyone wants to ensure there is no racist behavior inside his department.
No one would be more eager than I to rid my office of a deputy sheriff who was racist and treating members of the community unfairly.
We started asking the El Paso County Sheriff's Office for records, reports, and interviews 5 days ago. We were denied and given a bill for thousands of dollars. There are many more allegations addressed by the sheriff Tuesday, including a conspiracy about a murdered ranch hand.
Did you get that? Did you hear what she said there?
And treating members of the community unfairly.
We started asking the El Paso County Sheriff's Office for records, reports, and interviews 5 days ago. We were denied and given a bill for thousands of dollars.
That's what the sheriff's department did to Channel 7. They asked for records, they were denied, and then given a bill. Now, these are Latino white supremacists in this area, by the way. These are white Latinos practicing white supremacy. I mean, they own code. They're on code. You're going to start hearing the names if you haven't already. Now, this is in Colorado. This is not El Paso, Texas. This is Colorado. No. This is Colorado now. This is El Paso County in Colorado. And what they're doing is saying, oh, they're already hitting y'all with the thing. Oh, no, we're going to let you know exactly where we're going on here. This is terrorism. We're letting you know exactly what we're doing. We're letting you know we're above the law. That this is not about the written laws. This is about the law of white supremacy. This is not about the written law. This is about the law of white supremacy. Now, for those of you who know anything about Colorado, Colorado has had in that Denver, Colorado Springs, Aurora, where the mass shooting occurred. They've had there's been a large influx of white Latinos in that area over the last 20 years in Colorado. Been a large influx. I've talked about that over a decade now. There's nothing wrong with being Latino. There's everything wrong with being white supremacist. There's nothing wrong with being Latino. There is everything wrong with being white supremacist. Now you see that they've locked arms with the dominant society. So when you see Joe Biden saying we need to leave the open borders and anybody who comes across illegal aliens, legalize as many, Chuck Schumer, legalize as many, this is what they want to legalize. Black and brown coalition, this is what they want to legalize. This is what they want to legalize. So Colorado's been one of those sleeper states, one of those sleeper areas. Legalize the weed, but let the white supremacy run free. Let the white supremacy run free. So I just wanted you all to hear that's what they're doing with the television station there in Denver when they started asking questions. We ain't giving out nothing here. And oh yeah, here's a bill for you asking. I mean, they are just ultra blatant with the white supremacy. And this is good because unfortunately, the society has become so tone deaf about these things that if they are not this shockingly blatant and in your face with it, folks will try to deny that it even exists.
El Paso County Sheriff's Office for records, reports, and interviews 5 days ago. We were denied and given a bill for thousands of dollars. There are many more allegations addressed by the sheriff Tuesday, including a conspiracy about a murdered ranch hand and the arrest of Nicole Mallery nearly 2 years ago when she fired a shot at a process server who had entered her private property without notice. I promise.
Now, that statement that the reporter just made when she, quote, fired a shot at a process server, that's a very pejorative statement to make. It's a very leading statement to make. Because you want to talk about there's more information. Yeah, there is. Yes, there is. But there's more information. But that statement, to make that statement like that, she fired a shot at a process server. Wait a minute now. There's a distinction that needs to be made. We'll get to that shortly.
To follow up in more detail tomorrow on Denver 7.
And the El Paso County Sheriff's Office has now decided to release more than 120 pages of records pertaining to cases involving the Mallerys. Unfortunately, that release happened right before this newscast began.
Isn't that convenient? All of a sudden, once the sheriff realized, oh, they serious, they really gonna put this on the news. All of a sudden, now he wants to start releasing documents. But he wants to release it right before they go on the news. So he's trying to stretch it out as far as he can. So when you start seeing those kind of things happen, just notice white supremacists are living by the law of I'm white and I say so. They live by the law of I'm white and I say so. Yeah, it's blatant. So what are y'all gonna do about us being blatant? Yeah, it's in your face. Yeah, you can see we're practicing white supremacy. Yeah, you can see that. That's where they're at with it. Because they have to send a signal to all the other white supremacists that they got their backs. They got to send the signal to all the other white supremacists. We got your back. This is a safe haven to practice white supremacy. That we here in El Paso County in Colorado, we practice open white supremacy here. Open. And even if the TV stations or anybody else gets involved, we've set up a white supremacist enclave where the law is white supremacy and the sheriff is the villain. The sheriff is one of the bad guys. The sheriff and his henchmen are also known as deputies. Well, I'm sorry, there are his legal deputies, and then there are his extra legal deputies. His legal deputies, I use the word legal as in deputized by him directly. Those are the ones who are with the police cars. The extra legal deputies, those are the ones across the street from the Mallerys. They've been deputized too. The sheriff has deputized all these white supremacists and suspected white supremacists. He's deputized all of them for the purposes of targeting these people.
So Micah is now combing through those new records, and she now decided to release more
detail tomorrow on Denver 7.
And the El Paso County Sheriff's Office has now decided to release more than 120 pages of records pertaining to cases involving the Mallerys. Unfortunately, that release happened right before this newscast began. So Micah is now combing through those new records, and she will bring you an in-depth update tomorrow on Denver 7.
And this story is so important because the number of black farmers across America has declined greatly over the past century. Let's break down the numbers for you. Researchers at UMass Boston looked at data from the USDA Census of Agriculture. They found that black farmers lost $326 billion worth of acreage in the 20th century. Currently, black farmers own less than 1% of all farmland. Colorado was home to a historically black farming settlement in the early 1900s. Deerfield in Weld County is now a ghost town, but it was once a place to end the cycle of poverty.
When folks talk about we don't need reparations, every time you turn around, you hear about these settlements that black people, without the benefit of the Homestead Act, by the way, without the benefit of the Homestead Act, without that benefit, we did that without that. And everywhere you go, you're hearing about black folk, what we used to have, and settlements and farms and towns that we were terroristically removed from with the permission and the help of local, state, and federal government. They didn't remove us accidentally. That was deliberately, and they've been trying to, in the words of Dr. Claude Anderson, maintain the status quo ever since. To make sure they maintain that status quo. That's what this has been about ever since. Holding on to that and maintaining it so that even if one of you sits up here and jumps up, we gonna be at the ready. Now, that was the first story that Channel 7 in Denver did. That was the first story. Here's another story here that was done 2 days ago. This was 2 days ago. Channel 7 is back again with an update. Now, for anybody out there who wants to defend the sheriff, let me tell you, anybody who would try to, you got shaky ground right now. You're on shaky ground if you attempt to do that. Well, Jason, why would you say so? Listen for yourselves.
Last night on Denver 7 News at 6, we brought you an exclusive on-camera interview with two ranchers in rural El Paso County who claim they're being harassed by their neighbors and the sheriff's office. Well, right before our story aired, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office released more than 100 documents from cases involving the couple, the Mallerys.
And that was after trying to charge us thousands of dollars just to get those records in the first place.
Well, Denver.
You can see the TV station is letting y'all know, by the way, that's weird, wacky, irregular, and completely uncalled for there. This is after trying to charge us thousands of dollars.
Sheriff's Office released more than 100 documents from cases involving the couple, the Mallerys.
And that was after trying to charge us thousands of dollars just to get those records in the first place.
You hear that? Trying to. So it sounds like they've decided to decline attempting to charge them to get those records. Now, all of a sudden, really strange, bizarre, wacky behavior. These are supposed to be public records. They said they were going to release them. All of a sudden, weird, wacky, strange, bizarre behavior. Ain't no files. Can't get to them. Ooh, we're going to have to go looking. Sounds like with the Emmett Till murder. Oh, we don't know where it's at. You start hearing this kind of crazy stuff. Now, when black folk, if it were black folk doing it, they'd be all over it, calling it corruption, crime, and everything else. But these other folk doing that there, all of a sudden, it's okay. Recognize what you're looking at.
Well, Denver 7's Micah Smith has now combed through all of those documents and brings you tonight's in-depth update.
We take all allegations of crime and civil rights violations seriously.
The El Paso County Sheriff's Office held this news conference to address treatment of the Mallerys, black ranchers who own 640 acres in rural El Paso County.
My office has received.
Now, of everything that you all could hear, this is what I want you to hear most.
El Paso County Sheriff's Office held this news conference to address treatment of the Mallerys, black ranchers who own 640 acres in rural El Paso County. Mallerys, black ranchers who own 640 acres in rural El to own 640 acres to own 640 acres ranchers who own 640 acres in rural El Paso County.
Did you hear that? They own 640 acres. Now, this might be rural land today, but let's be very clear. Over the course of the last 20 years, my real estate people, my real estate agents, my real estate brokers, you know that Denver, Colorado, and that Denver area, I'm speaking about that because Denver's a weird thing that bleeds into other areas, but Denver, Colorado has been essentially for the majority of the last 20 years, up until recently it's starting to soften some, but for the majority of the last 20 years, the Denver, Colorado area, Denver, Colorado Springs, Boulder, they have basically been impervious to housing value declines. Basically, remember the housing crash of 2008, everywhere in America took it in the shins. Everywhere. Dallas, New York, LA, Miami. Everybody took a hit in 2008 except Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado was impervious even to the Great Recession, even to the subprime crisis. Impervious. So these folk looking forward, they can already see, hey, you got to clear these niggas out over the course of the next 100 years. You can't have black folk owning literally hundreds of acres, and you know what the strategy is. We gonna run the black folk out, and then here's the cruelest of ironies, they would run the black ranchers off and then sell it to the white folk. They'll just take it to the county auction and sell it to some white folk, white Latinos or other. They'll run the black folk off and then sell it to some white folk and say, okay, see, this is militarized gentrification. You slip through the cracks. Militarized gentrification. You done messed around and slipped through the cracks. We're going to see if we can bust that up. oh, we can't remove you because you can actually afford to be here? Now we're going to militarize. And there's a point I want to make about this to all the, Jason, for reparations, what we need is they need to give it to us in the form of land, Jason. See, give us reparations in the form of land. This is what happens if you restrict reparations to the form of land. This is why reparations must be in cash. So that we can purchase the land and then also purchase the means to develop it and finally purchase the means to physically protect ourselves after we have purchased the land. We have to have the ability, if you wish to buy land, you must have the ability to buy the land, you must have the ability to develop the land, and then finally you will need to have the means to defend yourself when the white supremacists and their white supremacist adjacent groups, as evidenced by the white Latinos at the sheriff's department, these white supremacist adjacent groups, you must be prepared to defend yourself against these white supremacist elements who are sitting there and saying, if we have an opportunity to kill you, we are going to do so. If we lost the economic battle, we will now do what the sheriff is doing and switch to militarized terrorism. But I wanted you all to hear that. In the first story, I don't think they said how many acres it was, but when you hear this now, 640 acres. That's a massive piece of land. You could build a couple of super domes on that. That's a massive piece of land. Hell, a couple of super domes and their parking lots. You could build, that's a massive piece of land. Yes, I understand it's rural, but let's be very, 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 very clear. Today's rural land is tomorrow's suburb. It might be quote unquote rural land today, but anybody, if you've been in Texas, when I used to live in Dallas, Texas, I go through Dallas at least once a damn month. Plano, Texas was a suburb of Dallas proper 25 years ago. Allen, Texas was the sticks. Go through that bastard today. Plano is overbuilt, got a big ass outlet mall, and Allen, Texas is crowded with people because they didn't actually expand it. Plano blew up and Allen just got sucked in. And we can say the same thing about Addison, Richardson, Irving, Grapevine, Las Colinas, Frisco. We can go down the damn list. Today's quote unquote rural area is tomorrow's suburb. Phoenix, Arizona, same thing. Anybody who's been to Chandler, Arizona, same thing. Today's quote-unquote rural area is tomorrow's suburb. Let me tell y'all something else right now. With 640 acres of land, you do realize that a landmass that big, they literally can have the ability to lease part of it to a company like Tesla or whatever. If somebody wants to come on their land, they could lease the damn land to an entity like Tesla and they could build something out on that. They got a huge piece of land. They could do something. Tesla could build a factory on their land and never even really disturb where these folks live on the land. So you got to look ahead. So anybody who owns very large parcels of land, if they're undesirables, you got to get them up out of there. You got to get them up out of there. That's why outside of Memphis, where they want to build that Ford plant, oh no, we got to jump in here quick. Because all the really large pieces of land in the most desirable areas there, no, we can't leave that to chance. So don't just look at what you see today. What you see today, this is it. Folks in Austin, Texas, they're building, Intel is building a semiconductor plant in Texas. Tesla just finished building another gigafactory in Texas. I think we got 2 semiconductor plants being built in Texas and some other very large build-out projects. They're in areas that are really right outside of Austin, so they're not really building in Austin proper. So right outside of Austin, in other words, the rural area. In other words, the rural area. So when you see black folk in a highly desirable place like Colorado, and they sitting on 640 acres of land, and they're actually doing something with it, there's a reason they want to get you the hell up out of there. They are worried. They don't want to be dealing with your kids and your grandkids. Because at that point, you're going to have the wealth locked in. We've got to get rid of you now. We can't wait for your children and your grandchildren to come here, because by that point, you'll have the wealth locked in. You'll have the wealth locked in. You'll have the kids ready to hold it. We won't be able to move them if we allow this. This is why things like Bruce's Beach, it was so essential to clear black folk out early. Just as soon as you set up a black town, bomb that bastard. You can't let it get to the second or third generations. You'll never be able to remove them. Unless you do something like the Highway Act. You would have to do something massive like the Highway Act and some huge eminent domain to get it away from the kids and the grandkids. This is why we got to have cash reparations. This is why we got to have it, because nobody else in America is telling you about how they used to have a thriving farming community, used to have thriving business communities, and it was because of government action and their black neighbors that these white folk no longer got that. That the black folks said, yeah, we're grabbing it and taking it. They don't have anything like that. Never have, never will. So this is why we must have cash reparations.
Treatment of the Mallorys, black ranchers who own 640 acres in rural El Paso County.
My office has received numerous emails and calls with people voicing concern with how we have handled the Mallery situation over the last 2 years and voicing concerns about racism and property rights, callers being unaware of the facts of our involvement, which is largely why we are here today.
Now, you all have to understand, once again, when you're in the right, you can very easily, very quickly, very simply explain your case. It doesn't have to go through all these twists and turns. It doesn't have to go loop-de-loop through semantics. It doesn't have to take hairpin spins and figure eights through figures of speech. You can just sit down very clearly and explain why you're doing what you're doing in very simple to understand language. And yet when the sheriff starts talking, it never gets to simple to understand language. He should be able to defend himself and explain this very clearly. But when you listen to his flunky, and by the way, listen to these names, but when you listen to his flunkies, all of a sudden, it never makes sense.
And property rights, callers being unaware of the facts of our involvement, which is largely why we are here today.
During the news conference, Lieutenant Chris Gonzalez walked us through body camera videos. The first showed a process server going past a barrier and onto the Mallory's property to serve the couple with legal papers.
Listen, I have some legal documents.
Get the off my property.
Hey,
get the
I'm
off.
leaving. I'm leaving.
Uncle Mallery can be heard screaming at the server, and as he runs away, you can hear a gunshot.
Brandishing a weapon is not necessarily against the law unless you use it in a threatening manner.
Now, I want you all to remember this part right here, because this part right here is bizarre but key to more pieces of the puzzle than one. So what you just heard them say was a process server came on the property, and you hear a gunshot. Now, you remember in the previous story, she said they fired at a process server. Did you hear that? They fired at a process server. That was what she said the first time. I'm not saying that was necessarily her saying it, but the sheriff's department may have been saying that. I'm not sure whether she was saying that or the sheriff's department, but you notice that's what they said the first time. They fired at a process server. But now that you've seen the video, you realize most likely she was simply firing the air, but she wasn't firing at him. Now you hear what the sheriff's deputy here says, and keep this in mind. Keep his words in mind. These clowns indict themselves.
A weapon is not necessarily against the law.
You can hear a gunshot.
Brandishing a weapon is not necessarily against the law unless you brandishing a weapon is not necessarily against the law unless brandishing a weapon is not necessarily against the law unless you use it in a threatening manner. A threatening manner against the law unless you use it in a threatening manner. Unless you use it in a threatening manner.
I played that over and over because I want you to remember his words. Brandishing a weapon is not necessarily against the law unless you use it in a threatening manner. Now keep that in mind before this news piece is over.
Such as to fire rounds off as the person.
And as he runs away, you can hear a gunshot.
Brandishing a weapon is not necessarily against the law unless you use it in a threatening manner, such as to fire rounds off as the person's trying to flee the property.
So now they're trying to tell you that firing rounds off is a threatening manner. You know what? I won't even argue with him about that, but keep in mind what he just said. Brandishing a weapon such as firing off shots is not illegal unless you're using a threatening manner, such as firing off shots. Keep that part in mind.
Against the law unless you use it in a threatening manner, such as to fire rounds off as the person's trying to flee the property.
Nicole Mallery was charged with menacing, which was eventually dismissed.
So when I look out the window, there's a white male there.
Second video shows a SWAT team arresting the Mallerys for that incident. That's Nicole you hear screaming, complaining about shoulder pain. She calls the officers pigs and uses profanity. Nicole was charged with assault on a police officer. She pleaded guilty. But I want to get back to the heart of the Mallery's claims, that the El Paso County Sheriff's Office has not thoroughly investigated their poisoned animals and threatening social media posts.
Mr. Mallery also complained that his dog was poisoned. The deputy asked for additional information as well as requested Courtney Mallery take the dog to the veterinarian. Unsatisfied with the conversation, Nicole Mallery contacted a supervisor.
The Mallerys say they did take the animal to the vet, but the sheriff's office provided no record of that case. The office did.
So did you hear that? The dog was poisoned. Ooh, take the dog to the vet. What was your investigation about it? Probably collecting the Mallery's cameras and saying, well, just in case your cameras picked up somebody doing something, let's take your cameras from you here. I'm pretty sure that's what occurred.
Contacted a supervisor.
The Mallerys say they did take the animal to the vet, but the sheriff's office provided no record of that case. The office did release 130 pages of other records involving the Mallerys. On August 11, 2021, deputies were called out to the property where a man and his son said they stopped to pet a snake. They called this.
Now, did you hear that? A man and his son said that they stopped to pet a snake. Anybody who lives in a rural area, and I'm from Louisiana, doesn't that just sound bizarre to you? Well, yes, of course, me and my son, we stopped to pet a snake on these people's private property. Yeah, we stopped to pet a snake. Yeah, I mean, this is hilariously crazy to even say these things. But wait, you ain't heard nothing yet. It gets crazier.
The Mallerys. On August 11, 2021, deputies were called out to the property where a man and his son said they stopped to pet a snake. They called dispatch to report Nicole yelling at them to leave. She says they trespassed. The father and son say they did not and reported seeing a gun in Nicole's vehicle. For that, Nicole was charged with child endangerment, a case she's still fighting. As for these disturbing Facebook posts, on September 19th and 23rd vehicle. For that, Nicole says they trespassed. The father and son say they did not and reported seeing a...
Now, read what they had here. I want you to read this. He and his witnessed, this grammatical brain trust at the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. While talking to blank or blank, stated before he started the recording again. Somebody put a period there. I think you meant to put a comma there, genius. He and his whoever witnessed the female get out of the cab of her pickup and pull what appeared to be an assault rifle from the rear of her vehicle. The female then placed it on the front driver's side of her vehicle inside the vehicle. He stated she got back into the vehicle, checked the magazine of the weapon, and then replaced the magazine in the weapon. At which time blank told son blank to move towards the front of their vehicle with the engine between the son and the female. Did you get that? She pulled what appeared to be an assault rifle from the rear of her vehicle. The female then placed it on the front driver's side of her vehicle inside the vehicle. So in other words, you're saying that she took it out of the rear of the truck and put it inside the vehicle. Now understand what that is for. For those of you who've had to deal with white supremacists in supposed open carry states, you can't accuse them of concealing a weapon because the gun is clearly visible in the rear of their truck. So she's driving around. Why would she be driving around with the gun in the rear of her truck? Because if she didn't, the police and the sheriffs would accuse her of driving around with a concealed weapon. So the weapon is not concealed. It's clearly in plain view. She's not driving around with it. So you can't accuse her of brandishing it, nor can you accuse her of hiding it. It's in the rear of their truck in plain view. So if the police stopped them because they've had repeated trouble from the police, no cop can accuse them of concealing the weapon. So that tells you this is how much trouble they've had out of the police. I know I've had to fight cases like this. So this is why I know what the laws are in open carry states when they try to put black folk in a trick bag. I've had to fight cases like this. I've had to get district attorneys to back down from these things. I've had to get police departments to back down from these things because you have to understand what you can do and what you cannot do. So as crazy as it seems, having that weapon, she needs to have it where it's clearly visible. She's showing that she's worried about the police because she knows they're out to get them. Okay, so what did she do? She took it out of the rear of the vehicle and then placed it in the front of the vehicle. Now, do you all remember something that Sheriff Deputy B.O. Gus said?
Not necessarily against...
You can hear a gunshot.
Brandishing a weapon is not necessarily against the law unless you use it in a threatening manner, such as to fire rounds off as the person's trying to flee the property. Against the law unless you use it in a threatening manner, such as to fire rounds off as the person's trying to flee the property. Threatening manner, such as to fire rounds off as the person's trying to flee the property.
So first he said, oh, it's not, brandishing a weapon is not illegal unless you use it in a threatening manner. Unless you use it in a threatening manner, such as firing off shots. Okay, but when you go through the list of events, what happened? Next thing you know, they're telling you, well, we're going to see if we can grab them for something here. Well, hey, she didn't fire a weapon. She took it out of the rear of their pickup truck and put it on the driver's seat because this man, possibly using his child, she probably was afraid that she was using the child as a decoy because they've had issues with those folks. And next thing you know, now all of a sudden she's fighting a case against them. not for firing a weapon this time. So let me get this straight. When she fired a weapon before, you arrested her because, well, it's legal to brandish a weapon, but you can't be firing it. Okay, this time she had a weapon, never fired it, and now she's still been arrested. Do you all understand this? She's still been arrested. The first time you said the problem was you firing the gun. The second time now you're saying the problem is reasons. Reasons. I want you all to understand, this isn't me saying it. I'm reading directly from the report that they gave. You heard what the deputy said right there at the news conference about them justifying their arresting them. Now you're saying, oh, you can't defend yourself at all. We are criminalizing you defending yourself at all. We're taking your cameras. We're not investigating nothing. We're criminalizing you attempting to do anything. So that's why I wanted you all to remember what Deputy CEO Ruption said early on. When he said, well, brandishing a firearm is not illegal unless you use it in a threatening manner. Now, every time you see these folks here, we're arresting them. She didn't do what you arrested her for the first time. Don't worry, we'll double back and get this. We'll double back and get it. Yeah, they're being so damn blatant that their own reports and their own words are conflicting with them before they leave the damn press conference.
They did not, and reported seeing a gun in Nicole's vehicle. For that, Nicole was charged with child endangerment, a case she's still fighting. As for these disturbing Facebook posts, on September 19th and 23rd, 2022, deputies investigated. The report mentioned comments about community members deliberately driving the roads outside the Mallery's property. But it did not include these comments the Mallerys provided to us regarding Black Lives Matter, pitchforks, and fire sticks.
So you got that. The sheriffs in their paperwork did include some posts from Facebook, but they didn't include the ones threatening the Mallerys. They very conveniently left those out. They very conveniently didn't add that to their records. So if you're relying only on the reports from the sheriff's department, you're getting some fictionalized white supremacist manifesto. That's what you're getting. But you're not getting police work.
Senators Michael Bennet and John Hickenlooper's teams confirmed with me their offices are monitoring the Mallery's claims and working with the NAACP.
So much for your former governor of Colorado, now senator. So we're watching the situation. You go there'd be a black sheriff messing with some white folk like that, and the governor's office would have already had them under charges and removed.
One bombshell moment during the news conference was the mention of the Mallery's murdered ranch hand. Take a listen.
On May 14th, 2021, Courtney Mallery called EPSO dispatch because he was concerned for his safety after the murder of his ranch hand. He requested EPSO patrol check the area to ensure his safety. There was an active investigation into the murder of Donasanio Amaya, and there is a person of interest in this case.
From there, the office defended one of its own after baseless social media posts accused.
So anybody asking, by the way, what about what you heard about that murdered ranch hand, the person being murdered on their property? By the way, if you were wondering, was that just fiction? Oh, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And don't worry, Deputy B.O. Gus is hard at work on the case.
The murder of Donasanio Amaya, and there was an active investigation into the murder of Donasanio Amaya, and there is a person of interest in this case.
From there, the office defended one of its own after baseless.
So you see, the family has been reporting every damn thing. They said everything, say, hey, we're concerned about our safety. Somebody got murdered, not on the neighbor's property, people. Do you understand that? This is the part right here that shows you what we're dealing with. If the Mallerys are the problem, why come somebody wasn't murdered on the neighbor's property? They said there's a person of interest. Oh, really?
Donasanio Amaya, and there is a person of interest in this case.
From there, the office.
Okay, if the person of interest was the Mallerys, why haven't they arrested the Mallerys? If the person of interest is the Mallerys, then why haven't they arrested the Mallerys? Because they've shown a propensity to arrest the Mallerys for anything from jaywalking to having their shoes untied. They've confiscated their cameras. They've taken every step they possibly can to prosecute the Mallerys, even when the neighbors are attacking the Mallerys. And yet, all of a sudden, somebody is murdered on their property and, well, you know, them's the breaks. Everything's fine out here. You know, there's a person of interest. We'll get around to it. So you're hearing just really crazy, wild, bizarre, unrealistic things happening here. You and I would never pursue an investigation in a manner like this. And yet, the Keystone Cops of El Paso County are doing that. Either they are the worst, most incompetent police in the history of cognitive thinking, or they are white supremacist collaborators going on a campaign to harass these people because we didn't know that we sold the 640 acres to you. We didn't know that you were the ones that we sold that to. Now, let me be very, very clear about something else right here. When they talk about their property, go back to the first one here. When they talked about their property and on their land, let me be very, very clear about what you see there. When these folks are out there on their property and they're just trying to enjoy their civil rights and their civil liberties in America, to anybody who's got a problem with things like, for example, what they had on their house, if somebody wants to make an issue about that, well, they got Black Lives Matter on the side of one of their barns or whatever. By the way, you also see up there, you got Marines. Jesus is King, Marines, Black Lives Matter. Let's be clear about this, folks. I have driven all across this country. I have seen more Confederate flags, the American swastika. I've seen more Confederate flags across this country on farmland than I care to count. There isn't anything here that justifies harassing these people, and if it does them, why the hell didn't we grab all these other folk a long damn time ago? What the hell's the issue here? These folks not radicals. This is rural culture. But the sheriffs and friends realized, oh, we ain't got some bootlicking niggas out here, and they own 640 acres. Their children will be trouble. Their children will be trouble. We can't allow that to get started. We got to deal with them by supreme terrorism rules now. We have to terrorize them out of here now. Because they obviously understand the value of land. They got a plan. They got the resources. Yeah, we got to terrorize them now.
Defended one of its own after baseless social media posts accused a sergeant of the murder.
Okay, well, if the police department here, the sheriff's department has not been able to figure out what's going on, it shouldn't be very hard. All those cameras all over the place from their neighbors that they left up, it shouldn't be very difficult to figure that out. It shouldn't be very difficult, and the fact that the sheriff's department is being so quiet about it, that should make your ears go up also. The fact that they're being so quiet about it and so coy, everybody else, the Mallerys, have never shrunken down from saying, hey, somebody got killed on our property. And yet the sheriff's department seems to be very nonchalant about it. While the sheriff's department doesn't seem to be worried at all. If you didn't know better, you'd swear the sheriff's department knew something, and they don't really want to investigate very much. But by the way, a person of interest, why ain't they going to head and fast track that? Because, that shouldn't be too hard to find out. Should it? Should it? But this is white supremacy in America in the 21st century. All the things you've been told wouldn't happen, don't happen, shouldn't happen, don't have to worry about it. Understand that that's what you're dealing with now. In a place like Colorado, when you talk about the Western expansion, we're not that far from it here, and the attitudes still persist, and public enemy number one is black folk. How dare you start having the idea in your head that you are going to build generational wealth? It is completely unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. So now they are suffering domestic terrorism. Right now, I hold the El Paso County Sheriff's Department guilty until proven innocent because we've already seen enough. That we've already seen enough. I don't need to see anymore. Now they're going to have to prove to me that they are not the villains behind these things and performing a campaign of terrorism. They're going to have to convince us now. We've seen enough. We've seen enough. For those of you who might have been telling yourselves that don't worry, we're not really going to have to worry about this going forward here. Don't worry, we can zaddy our way out of it. And let's be also very clear about this. Colorado is one of the swirler capitals of America. I told you that over a decade ago here. Over a decade ago, I talked about that. That was a very infamous place for that kind of thing. And it was a lot of folks out there talking about they black and brown love lives. And yet white supremacy runs wild and runs rampant. It runs wild and runs rampant and runs blatant. So you've got police chiefs in Aurora with racist cops on the police department. You go out to the rural area, the sheriffs are already on the white supremacy bandwagon. And this is what you're dealing with. This is what you're dealing with now. So to the folks who said, oh, we needed some land, Jason, we need some land, and we're going to reparations, get some land, man, you better think it over. You better think it over. Because the folks with the land and out in the areas where there's the large tracts of land, the white supremacists are sitting there already. We better have the cash on hand because we're going to need more than just land. We're going to need the means to develop it and protect it. We will need the means to develop it and secure it afterward. And this isn't just Colorado. This is every damn where. This is everywhere. Doesn't matter whether you're in Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Mississippi, Missouri. Oh yeah, one thing about Missouri. By the way, Missouri, an honorary Confederate state. For those of you who don't know your history, Missouri is basically an honorary Confederate state. They just missed out on the secession bandwagon by a bit, but Missouri is an honorary Confederate state. Might be time to go ahead and remind you of something else. This is a story out of Missouri here in the last couple of days, and wait till you see this one.
Black Democratic lawmakers in Jefferson City are accusing House leadership of racism following debate on a bill last week. Our Missouri Chief Capitol Bureau reporter Emily Manley joins us live with the legislation that really was the tipping point for some members. Emily?
Okay, so they are accusing the Missouri House leader, the House leader in Missouri, of racism. Now, watch this for yourselves. Remember the House leader. Remember who we're talking about. And take a look at how long the story takes to get there.
Maybe it happened when representatives were discussing a large crime bill. It would allow the governor to appoint a special prosecutor after a municipality hits a certain number of homicide cases. That's when debate was stopped, leaving many black Democrats standing without getting a chance to speak.
No justice, no peace. Thank you.
A call to action.
It's time for our cute communities to be respected. It's time for our bills to become laws.
Representative Marlene Terry is the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus. She called black leaders and community activists to the Capitol after what she says was a racist move by House leadership.
Last week, the Republicans tried to silence the voices of St. Louis voters who re-elected the first black circuit attorney.
The bill.
Now, do you all see how long this news piece has gone on? And their beef is with the House leader in Missouri. Watch this.
Tried to silence the voices of St. Louis voters who re-elected the first black circuit attorney.
The bill causing tension.
They want a special prosecutor. Now, initially, they just wanted a special prosecutor in St. Louis. But they knew that was just way too blatant.
An original part of the legislation would have criminalized minors from carrying firearms in public without adult supervision. But it was stripped out. Lawmakers had 3 hours to debate the bill Wednesday before the vote was taken Thursday.
And when I sense that things are going downhill on the
What do I spy? Well, this is Representative John Patterson. Wonderful Irish name. Of Lee's Summit. The House Majority Leader in the state of Missouri, and a more guilty person you could never find.
Lawmakers had 3 hours to debate the bill Wednesday before the vote was taken Thursday.
And when I sense that things are going downhill and the discussions are not productive, I think it's time to move on, and that's why I chose to end the debate.
House Majority Leader John.
You see him looking at the camera, guilty as hell. Do you see the way he's looking at the camera? This little bastard is guilty as hell looking at this camera. I mean, this is the face of sheer guilt. He's guilty and he knows it. Guilty as hell and he knows it. He can't even pretend he's not guilty right now. He's not even able to do a good job pretending he ain't guilty. He's scared of cameras seeing him. I thought you were the House Speaker. I thought you were the House Leader. What are you so worried about? Well, you look guilty as a son of a gun. So if you want to know, first of all, I got one question. First question is, where is Andrew Yang? Where's the Yang gang? Has anybody been able to find the Yang gang? I'm just trying to figure out where the Yang gang is. We need to have a powwow, Mr. Yang. We need to have a powwow, Mr. Yang. So this is in Missouri. This is in Missouri. This is in Missouri. And I have been saying this now for over a decade. When we talk about the chilling effect of the buffer classes, this is what we mean. These are areas where the Asian population is in low single digits, and yet they don't identify as a minority. They don't have a problem with white supremacy. They're, hey, I'm here to uphold this thing. This is working pretty good. I'm here to uphold white supremacy. What you mean, fight it? We're here to uphold it. We're here to uphold it. So from Colorado to Missouri, with bills and laws to target the ordinary black citizen. Listen to what they said, what the Reverend said.
They want a special prosecutor. Now, initially, they just wanted a special prosecutor in St. Louis. But they knew that was just way too blatant.
So did you get that? Now, originally, they wanted a special prosecutor in St. Louis. We want a special prosecutor for St. Louis. People, there's no place in America that needs a special prosecutor or a special damn anything. There are already, as I've told you all now for years and years, there are already 3 laws on the book for literally every offense you could possibly name. Anything you could possibly do, there is already 2 or 3 laws on the books that make it at least a Class A misdemeanor or a felony. You don't need any new laws. You don't need any special prosecutors. The only reason you want a special prosecutor is just if you want to conceal something. What is this prosecutor going to have the powers to do that any other prosecutor doesn't? You want to do something that they shouldn't be doing. You want to go after something specific. And that's the issue I want you to keep in mind. You want to go after something specific, that's the way you do that. So we're looking at targeting the ordinary black citizen now. This is a targeting of the ordinary black citizen. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to see if we can get Afro Elite on the line here. There is a case that he's been working on also that you all are aware of. I want to get him on the line so we can get an update on that. We definitely need that. Before we do, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chats. The Black Voltron's back on the scene. Thank you very much for your support, brother. We appreciate that. Tommy Felix, only if there was a B1 militia that would go and protect the family other than March. Got to be on code about it. Thank you very much for your support here tonight and everyone else who has contributed to support tonight's program. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, we'll be discussing this and more. This is The Black Channel.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. My name is Joe Jackson. I'm a foundational black American, and I entered the field of IT with the goal of helping the family globally. The industry's been changing, and I've learned a lot. But how did we get here? How do we navigate issues we face in the workplace? How can we get our house in order? Read The Concept and Intricacies of Being Black in IT, now on Amazon, as well as the best-selling Guide to Being Black in IT. Go to beingblackInIT.com.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Natural Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Higher Life Recruiting and Consulting specializes in direct placement. If your company is looking to hire top talent, or you are looking to start a new career, our network of professional recruiters can help. We provide recruiting, LinkedIn lead generation, access to our professional network, paid job postings, interviewing, and more. Check out our specialized services: information technology recruiting, STEM career consulting, sales recruiting, hiring process consulting for your business, resume writing, LinkedIn profile consultation. Follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn and get higher with us.
P23 Lives can help you find your flow. Revolutionizing healthcare to self-care. P23, making a healthier
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening as we are discussing the targeting of ordinary black citizens here. And I'm going to see if I can get on the line here on Zoom. Going to see if we can get our brother Afro Elite on the line here on Zoom. I think we got you up now. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you are muted, Afro. Welcome to The Black Channel, brother. Now, I don't want anybody to think that, there's a lot that's going on, and I don't want anybody to think there's, too much I'm missing in this regard. So much has been said about it before here, but I wanted to bring us back around to the ozone case. For the folk who may have forgotten about that, I want you all have done, recently you've done a roundtable here about that case in particular, so I wanted to bring you on here to go ahead and discuss that. Go ahead and remind everybody about what occurred, what happened there, and where it currently stands now.
Okay, first off, I want to thank you for bringing me on. The situation, to recap what the situation was, Ozone is like a community activist, and he parked outside of his apartment complex, and a white officer pulled up to him and walked up to him as he was leaving his vehicle. He walked up to him and he tried to physically force him back inside of his vehicle. He didn't really give any commands, didn't tell him he was under arrest. There was no warrant. He physically put his hands on him, and then there was a scuffle. Within the scuffle, there was a gunshot that went off, and the officer was shot and he passed away. After that, there was a warrant put on Otha Wallace, and Otha Wallace was arrested, and now he is being charged with first-degree murder of this officer in Florida, which leads to capital punishment. So what we in the community are trying to do is we're trying to raise funds for his legal defense fund. We're trying to raise funds to pay off his attorneys because he needs like the top of the line attorneys because he's facing capital punishment.
Now, right now, where is he at currently?
He's currently held in prison. He's currently in jail right now in Florida.
Okay, is he being? That's why I want to get the details on. Is he being held on bail or is he being held without it?
He's being held without bail.
So they're not even giving him an opportunity to be released.
No.
So let me get this straight. George Zimmerman didn't have that issue.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We've only recently been able to contact him, and he's let us know that he's in good spirits. He's let us know that he's been, talking to his family and to his children. But besides that, we don't know too much about the situation. We have not been able to, or at least I have not been able to really contact him. We've only heard messages that he's been able to record, and that's it. But he's not being placed on bail because this is the quote unquote murder of an officer. And they're saying it's a first degree charge. So what they're saying is he intended, first degree is intent. You planned and you intended to murder this officer. That's what he's being charged with. And it's in the state of Florida. So he's not being held on, it's like a flight risk or something like that. I think the term is escape risk. So he's not being able to leave prison at all. He's not being held on any type of bond.
Right. First degree means premeditated. So yeah. They're saying what? You can be premeditated within 2 seconds? Is that the new standard of premeditation? New nigga laws, basically.
Yeah. He's being held.
You can have premeditation now within 5 seconds, basically.
Yeah. And not only that, the officer in the video, the officer walked up to him and the officer was asking very mysterious questions like, do you live here? And asking him kind of personal questions, didn't flash any lights, didn't even really announce himself as an officer. So the officer, he was parked in his car. The officer pulled up to him. It almost seemed as if the officer was kind of trailing him or following him. The officer walked up to him. So even if a scuffle occurred, and even if and I don't want to say anything that's going to jeopardize his case, but even if a scuffle occurred and he did defend himself, it would not be first degree. So the first degree is pretty much them trying to punish him. This is them trying to kind of make an example out of the fact that a black man in America cannot defend himself.
You say that you all have had difficulty contacting him.
Yes.
Okay, so is he not being allowed to make phone calls, or what exactly is occurring?
Well, he's being allowed, from what I know, because this situation has been going on for years. So from what I know, he's only been allowed to contact his baby mother and his children from the very beginning. Now he's being allowed to contact the baby mother, his children, and his parents. But as far as other people, because a lot of people have been trying to reach out to interview him to find out what he has like going on or what he has to say about it. And he's trying to be very strategic with, with his attorneys, like trying to not say too much, not to give too much away. But from what I know, a lot of people have been trying to interview him and ask him questions, and they're not allowing him to have any sort of contact outside of his very immediate family.
Okay, now you say,
and that's up to recently.
Yeah, when you say they, though, are you referring to the state, or are you referring to his legal representation?
I believe it's the state, and his I would say it's the state, but the legal representation has advised him and the family not to give too much details about where their defense is now. They're just asking for donations for the actual defense.
Right, and definitely, I mean, that's what competent counsel would do, is tell you don't say anything, because literally anything you say, they will use against you. So to anybody who might be asking, well, why wouldn't they want to be giving out? This is not really the time for them to be doing a whole bunch of interviews like that, because literally anything he says could be used against him. And they don't want him to say anything that could be twisted, misconstrued, turned into something, because very clearly they already are out to get him already. So anything he would say, I would love to talk to him myself, but I can understand why they wouldn't want him to, because you might inadvertently ask something that next thing you know, here comes the prosecutor. Oh, good. We're so glad you said that. Now let me see how I can twist this. So that's exactly what you're dealing with. So it is the correct thing to be. It is the correct thing to say. It is the correct thing to say at this time. And I'm glad to hear that he's in good spirits about that. You've been in touch with his legal representation?
I've been in touch with someone who is in touch with directly in touch with the legal representation. I myself have not spoken to the legal representation. I'm just out kind of raising funds for the legal representation. But myself, I have not spoken to the legal representation as of yet.
Well, definitely we want to stay on top of that kind of thing here, because this is the kind of stuff we want to be watching out for. Being able to target ordinary citizens. You see, what they told you before is it was Mike Brown or it was Eric Garner, and they try to spin things. Oh, they were in the middle of a crime. You need to just comply. And in reality now, we're showing you case after case, whether they're deputizing citizens or sending folk at you directly, where it's just, oh, no, we're just running up on anybody. If we think we can catch you by yourself somewhere in the middle of the night, because that's what was happening with him, in the middle of the night, if we can just run up on you real quick and come up with a reason, and then next thing you know, out of camera range, you just hear some gunshots, and then it's just another Negro dead. In the state of Florida, where Governor DeSantis has made it very, very clear he's launching a war against black people. He's made it very clear he's very hostile to black folk, and he wants to make it absolutely clear this is a white enclave, and he's going to do his part to lock it down and make sure he sends a chilling effect everywhere. So you've seen this go on and on now since Trayvon Martin. We've seen this go on and on, where they're making it very clear at this point now. We're trying to finish the Dixifying of Florida. And that this will be just a white supremacist enclave. And yeah, if we kill enough of y'all with impunity, then you'll get the message that this is ours and this is how we're going to be. So definitely, what I want to do now, because I know, I'm pretty sure D Tubman's got that, but I definitely want to get the information here to be able to support him and to be able to contribute for his defense. Obviously, they're trying to make an example of him, and I want to give everybody an opportunity here to be able to contribute to that. So definitely, I'm pretty sure D has that. I'm going to have her post that in the chat room so everyone can see that. And I want you to keep us posted and on top of exactly what's going on with this case here, because I want everybody to know I haven't forgotten about it. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Absolutely. But I'm staying on top of it. We got a lot of things to keep track of, but this is one of the things in particular that I am watching. So I have seen what's going on. I have seen what's happening. So definitely I want to keep on top of that. What I want you to do, Afro, just go ahead and email me that information real quick, if you will, just so I can make sure about that.
Okay.
I want you to email me that information, and I'm going to post that in the chat room as well, just to make sure I got that. I'll let you have the last word.
Thank you very much, TBA, for everything that you guys are doing. As far as the audience is concerned, this is a precedent that they're setting. They know for a fact that this man is 100% innocent, but this is to set an example. Just the same way they set an example with the Central Park Five. They don't honestly believe that these people are guilty. They want to sentence this person to life for an example, to set an example that you as a Black person, a Black citizen, man, woman, cannot defend yourself, especially against a race soldier in America. So it is very important that we defend him, and that us as a community, we come together and be on code together in defense of our brother Ozone. Well, and TBA, thank you again for having me.
Well, I want to thank you for taking out the time for joining us here tonight. And like I say, I wanted to let people know I monitor these things. I monitor a number of different cases. And just because you haven't heard me say anything for a while doesn't mean that I'm not still looking at these things. So I'm monitoring it. I'm staying on top of them. I want everyone to do something about this. I'm about to put something on it here myself very shortly here. But I want to thank you for taking out the time, and please keep us posted on this.
Okay, I'm going to email you as soon as I get off.
All right, thank you very much, brother. We appreciate it. Thank you for giving us the update on that. Targeting ordinary citizens, people. This is why I'm talking about this. Targeting ordinary people here. To make it clear to you that, hey, we can attack you with impunity. We can attack you with impunity, and when they take down one, then they set the precedent for everybody that, oh yeah, anytime, any place, anywhere, you don't have a right to life. Understand what they're really saying. They're not saying that you don't have a right to self-defense. They're saying you don't have a right to live. You don't have a right to life. Not you. You only have a right to life if we say you do. But you do not have any innate right to live. Now you've got a whole governor who's sitting on top of it. So D. Tubman has posted the link in the chat room there for everyone here to contribute to the legal defense for it. So I want you all to go ahead and do what you can here, especially here, because you got folks out here gunning down Black folk, and next thing you know, they got millions of dollars. They got millions of dollars for that. We need to do our part about that, and with your help, we will. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and open up the telephone lines. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the Black media. You're definitely obliged and invited to go ahead and give us a call. That's 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Go ahead and give us a call at that. In the meantime, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat. So B1 Media is a lifesaver. Thank you very much for your support. Mark B. Snaps, Andrew L., Najee, and McKnight. Mr. McKnight, thank you very much for your support also. We're talking about the targeting of ordinary Black citizens now. I warned people a decade ago when Zimmerman was out on the loose that they are trying to set a precedent now for how things will be for the next 1,000 years, particularly the next 500, that while so many folks out here have been engaging in the delusional wishful thinking of saying, well, as the white population is going down, okay, but that doesn't mean the white supremacist population is losing power and authority. The game plan now is, how do we continue to have autocratic control, including terroristic, militaristic powers, as a numerical minority? And that's what you're seeing happen now. That's what you're seeing happen now. How do we rig this so that even in the places that we are not the numerical majority, we still have the ability to do everything? We keep all of our powers intact, including the ability to kill with impunity. How do we do that? And that's what they're doing now. They're putting that in place now. They're trying to rewrite history. Florida is one of those hotbeds of rewriting history. The Florida textbooks are currently in the process of whitewashing history. They're removing the word slavery, calling them servants, workers, indentured servants. They're rewriting the entire transatlantic slave trade. To anybody who's seen those textbooks out of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, they made sure they are erasing slavery from history. So they're just telling you that black folk were immigrants with everybody else, which, of course, when you take a look where black folk are, when you remove the white supremacy from the equation, the next thing you know, black folk you ain't worked hard enough. All the rest of us just worked harder than you. Well, that would be simple calculus to make. If you erase slavery, Jim Crow, white supremacy, segregation, it's simple slavery to make. It's simple slavery. It's simple calculus to make. Shout out to Black Voltron and James Mitchell in the super chat. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate that. And as always, I want you all to be clear about this. Just because you don't hear me say something for a minute is usually because I'm sitting back watching. It's usually because I'm sitting back watching. I don't tell you everything I know. I don't tell you everything I see. We need to be more action-oriented. But for those of you fooling around in Florida and whatnot, and folks who've been acting like it's a game, it's not a game down there. Let's go ahead and get the phone lines open. Let me get caller from area code 505. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, Jason. This is Najee calling from New Mexico, Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Najee, New Mexico, what's on your mind?
Not much. I just wanted to say I appreciate the broadcast today. And I wanted to say also that that stuff that they're doing to the Colorado farmer, I didn't quite catch the broadcast. I just jumped in, but that stuff that they're doing to the Colorado farmer, basically the same group of people did the same sort of thing to me. And basically what they've got is this kind of human trafficking thing where they can cause you a bunch of extreme distress, and then you're like out of your mind of full of distress, and they can arrest you, like, or have you shot, that kind of thing, you know. So yeah, I just want to let you know about that. I did send you an email about it earlier, but yeah, just thanks for the broadcast.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 205. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
I'll let you know about that. I did send you an email about it earlier, but yeah, just thanks.
Yes, I'm on live.
Caller from area code 346. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Jason. This is Nick from Chicago by way of Houston, calling on my business phone.
All right, Nick from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I always wonder when I see these situations happen, like the farmers or any other situation, what I would do in their shoes, because I've been put in situations, standing outside of a pizza place and getting surrounded by police. And I think the only reason I'm alive is because I had a female with me. She went to her knees and started begging and crying right there. It was a track meet. And she said, please, please. I was fully ready to die because they were about to pull out the guns, surrounded us with 6 cops saying they were looking for some guy. I'm 5'8", looking for a guy 6'4" wearing a black flashlight and something. And I told her, I said, I've seen this in Chicago plenty of times. This was the first time it happened to her, apparently. I said, they're about to surround us. Stay calm. And just a few moments later, and she said, oh, what do you mean? I said, a cop just passed us with the headlights off. Don't move. Don't even turn your back and go in the pizza place with the rest of the coaches. Stand right here. But then they started asking the questions. I started getting angry. And when one was close enough, I was fully ready to grab and do whatever was necessary. And that was just in the Chicago area. That's not including cops that knew me, because I know a lot of cops in a lot of different areas. When they pull up to me and they know me personally, they like, oh, Nick, it's you. Never mind. And then I'll ask them some questions. This happened multiple times. I said, what do you mean? And they said, oh, no, don't worry about it. This is me in a McDonald's driveway, or just other areas, not even including what happened in Texas with them not reporting, or not, if I call the police, they hang up if something has happened. When this just makes me work harder. But I always wonder what I would do if I had the property of the farmers, because I don't know if I had the patience, because that's what that is. That's patience, that's resilience that they had to not do something else drastic, because I just don't know. I just work harder. This makes me more concentrated on reparations. This makes me more concentrated on getting money, but also thinking about how we got to protect ourselves, having security companies, having people that are taking action. But again, I don't know what I would do in that couple's situation with that farm. I don't know if I could have resisted calling in some more drastic actions or something like that, because I couldn't. I would make it loud.
Well, definitely they have done their part. They have done their part for that at this time here. And they've made a lot of noise about it because the media wasn't really talking about this kind of thing. This is why they want to shut us down as far as the black media, social media, black folk talking to each other about these things and being able to get the word out. This is not a story that the local media pursued. And this has literally been going on for years now. For years. And this is not something that the local media ever picked up on. So without social media to say something, the local media was just never going to say anything at all. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight, Nick. Let me get caller from area code 412. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Jason, hi, my name is Renee. Hey, how are you? Hey, I wanted to find out about I'm from Pennsylvania. I wanted to find out about the CBC, CBC. They have a black congressman out there who's not even trying to help the farmer out. I mean, the rancher farmer out in Colorado. So I don't understand. He knows we're doing this. The black grassroots actually giving money for their protection. How come the CBC ain't out there making noise? All they worry about is immigration, the LGBTQ march that they had down there in Florida. That's why I said I was with them until they start mentioning LGBTQ, L Sharpton and them, and immigrants in that march they had on Thursday. I said, I'm done. So what do we do when things like this keep happening and we trying to get their attention, but they're ignoring us? And they know they have majority of us, our population, is not riding with them. And they're putting it out in the media that we're all the same. We're riding with them. We want to kumbaya.
Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to make it clear that we're not going to necessarily wait for an election. That's the first thing. The first thing that we have to make clear to all the powers that be is that our survival is not up for a vote. It's not up for a vote. It's not up for a debate. It's not up for legislation. Our survival is not up for a bill or an amendment. Well, Jason, if we can get it to come up during this next legislative session, we'll discuss it then. No. Our survival is not up for a vote. That's the first thing.
Exactly.
So the mindset that first of all you need to adopt is, first of all, our survival's not up for a vote. That's the first thing. So that makes it clearer when you're dealing with folks in these situations. As black people, we need to be on guard, period, because here's the issue. You're dealing with a white supremacist terrorist state, and in places like Florida, you basically have outlaw governments. In places like Missouri, you got outlaw governments now. Places like Mississippi and their penitentiary system, you got outlaw governments. You have entire state governments that are now outlaws. And your Congressional Black Caucus are the hand-picked puppets of the establishment. Talking to them as a group isn't going to do anything because they work for the very people you trying to take down. They work for them. They work for those guys. That's who they work for. So that's the reason why talking to them.
Knocking on my door, talking
well,
about vote. I don't vote anyway.
Well, that's important. That's important. Now, don't get me wrong. That's important. That's important. But more important is what you do, not what you say. They're going to check to see how many folk are tuned into the process to begin with. They're going to check to see how many folk are tuned into the process to begin with. They're going to see how many are relying on that. It is most important for black folks as a group to be on code about it. That's the most important thing. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 773. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Is this me, sir? My name is Cole Chief. Cole Chief and a place to be. Hey, look.
Okay, Cole Chief, where are you calling from?
773. I'm calling from Chicago, Illinois, southeast side.
Okay, what's on your mind?
I had two things that I had ideas. I just tuned into the show, but I got ideas that might help us. One to help. Look, I just want to say this. Like, I'm from Chicago. A lot of Latinos in my neighborhood and whatnot, and they fly the word nigga when they talk. I just think that if from now on, like if you cool with a Latino or Asian or whatever, already have a derogatory mark in your name, I don't want you to think I'm disrespectful. Or like if they talking, yeah, bro, here we're kicking it, and I was with these niggas, be like, spec. And then, huh? What you say? Oh, nothing. Go on, finish your story. Yeah, I was saying these niggas. Oh, Bina, just disrespect them right on back, and then they'll start stopping and be like, hey, bro, you don't say the same thing. Other thing I want to say, you touched on it. I want to talk quick so you don't get mad at me. Listen, brother, I think we need to have an app, and brothers like you, Tariq Nasheed, and Vicky Dillard, for when y'all talk to the coons with the power and they try to speak against reparations, trick them into signing away their reparations if they come. Trip them into just like the app. Okay, click on here and say you'll donate to a worthy cause. It could be your cause or our cause. Just say when the reparations come, you don't want them, you'll click on this here switch agreeing to that. Those are only two things I want to say, brother. I don't want to disrespect your show because I love your show. I'm sorry, brother. Take it easy.
All right, thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 816. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello?
You're on live. What is your name? Where you calling from?
From Kansas City.
Okay, she's calling us from her Obama phone. See if you can get out of that alley. Caller from area code 240. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason. This is Mark from D.C.
All right, Mark from D.C. What's on your mind?
Yeah, this whole situation, I'm reminded of the Black Panthers and how, you know, they had their free lunch program and, you know, they were providing food for the community. I'm thinking, you know, this is a black, you know, we're talking 600 plus acres that this black, you know, couple owns. I mean, this is food supply for, you know, black folks, the nation. I mean, I'm reminded of the Black Panthers when I think of the situation, really.
Well, that's the mindset we certainly do want to have. That's certainly the mindset that we do want to have and recognize the value of these things. So we do want to have a mindset of doing for self, and that's what those folks are out there doing. You don't have a lot of folk trying to start farms today or trying to buy, ranches or large acres of land. You don't have a lot of that. So having a mindset that, yeah, we're going to take care of our funding and we're going to take care of our defense, to let these folk know that we are not going to sit here and just allow ourselves to be victims, that sends the biggest message of all. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 415. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, this is April calling from San Francisco, California.
April
How you
from
doing?
San Francisco. What's on your mind?
I'm calling because I want to thank you for covering the Mallery story in Colorado. I've been following that as well, and your update was brilliant. This kind of stuff has been going on for so long, and my family is also going through that as well, has gone through that for the past 3-4 generations on the East Coast in North Carolina and Virginia. I don't know if people know this, but, going through, the ancestry files for, reparations and all that, people are looking up their family history and all that. There's a whole nother way that people are getting, because we're getting close to reparations. They're deleting records now. They're actually going through and deleting people like my family. I'm noticing that, there was stuff there. I've been researching this for over 20 years. All those files are gone now. They're deleting the records, and now they're adding new names and like dummy records of people that don't exist under those names in order to stake our claim. So we got to be really watchful on that stuff. And that's all I wanted to say is just, an alert to people on that stuff, as well as thank you for covering the Mallery story, because it's a huge issue of how we had land, we had businesses, but my grandfather had a grocery store. He had a bus company. He had a pool hall, and it passed down to my father. And my father died penniless. He worked in as a coal miner, and then he became a foreman for a styrofoam company. Do you know that the people at the styrofoam company burned the company up? They set fire to that company while he was in there, and he had to take a chair and break through the window to escape, and he ended up dying because of that.
Yeah, all the pull yourself up by your bootstraps, people. They don't have any stories like this to tell. All the pull yourself up by your bootstraps folk, they don't ever have any stories like this to tell. They were allowed to just enter into commerce, many of them illegally, and do what they do. Black folk got to go through a million hurdles, and if you can make it a viable business, here comes a bunch of folks bringing in domestic terrorism, municipal terrorism, militaristic terrorism. So yeah, and all of us have a similar type story to tell. What does that tell you? We are in a race war. That's what it tells you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 615. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, my name is Shonda. I'm calling from Clarksville, Tennessee. And I'm calling to let you know thank you for your services. I had no idea about this story. I am very on top of different issues. I'm just saying, y'all, wake up. Let's wake up, Black community. Let's work together. It's time to reclaim what we have, y'all. We have to go to the Malleries. We have to stop saying we can't do this and that. We have to stand by each other, y'all. This is what this is about. We tired of marching in the street. We tired of doing all this stuff. It's time to stand up, Black people. It's time to be unified and love each other. Show kindness and support. Fight for something, or we going to lose it all. And that's all I really want to say, because there's nothing more to say. And to piggyback off the lady that just said something, she is correct. They are erasing our Cosmic records, y'all. Trust me, she's not lying. We have to unify. We have to find ways to organize to each other and stop doing the pity-pat bull crap. Let's get together, y'all. Let's unify. Let's love each other. Let's protect what we have, because if not, we're going to fall, and we're going to continue to fall. History will repeat itself. Let's keep talking about this. We will not repeat history. We will have the victory. And that's all I want to say. Peace and love. I give much gratitude for you for doing this and just keeping the word out and keeping everybody to know what's going on. And I just hope everybody be safe, and let's find a way to unify. I'm going to try to help the Mallerys the best as I can, but I really try to get to these people. I really want us to start doing stuff. Let's get to these people. Let's drive. Let's go. It's time to stand up and really, really do some stuff to show something. It's time to wake this shit up and shake it up. I'm sorry, y'all.
Thank you
y'all
very
have a
much for
great-
giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 516. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Empress from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, what was that name again?
I'm sorry?
What was that name again?
Empress,
All right, Empress from where?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, Empress from Charlotte. What's on your mind?
Well, I would like to thank you for covering the Mallery story. Mr. Mallery had reached out to me 5 weeks ago in regards to this, saying that he had needed help. And, we pulled up into a Twitter Spaces, a few of them. So it's glad. I'm very happy to see that the word is finally getting out. And, I've been in direct contact with Mr. Mallery for these past 5 weeks. And they, in fact, do have 1,000 acres. And there's a lot of stuff still currently going on that hasn't been mentioned. And I just can't wait for that to come out as well. But I just really wanted to say that I'm really happy that you dug deep into the story and covered it and just made it plain, because I've been waiting for it. I knew it was coming. So just thank you very much, brother. I really support you, and be one.
All right, Black first. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get call from area code 678. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
That's you. Hi, this is Angela calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, Angela from Atlanta. What's on your mind?
Hello?
Okay, Angela is fumbling with the bass pipe right now as opposed to answering the phone. So we'll give her a chance to go ahead and get finished doing that. But definitely, folks, they are targeting ordinary citizens here. And I told you all, we've entered the most critical, perilous time in our history. Now they're going to have to lock in white supremacy and just understand, as they lose numbers, the militarism is going to get more blatant and more bold. The Jim Crowism gets more blatant and gets more bold. That's militarism. It gets more blatant and it gets more bold. That's not accidental. That's deliberate. And I want young folk to understand that you saw Dr. King as a black and white video. You saw Bloody Sunday as a black and white video. You saw the Ku Klux Klan as black and white videos. I want you to understand that this is in high definition now. It's being executed by the system in high definition today. Your experience will not be black and white video. It will feel and seem just like any other day until they make their move. So the fight for black empowerment is already perilous enough and is hitting headwinds. Recognize what we're dealing with now. This is our lot. This is our challenge. This is our Jim Crow era. This is ours. And everyone's going to try to convince you that's not what it is. That is exactly what you're dealing with. They will try to buy you off with cell phones, tennis shoes, cable TV, Netflix, and get you to think that the most important thing you could be doing today is something else. Now, I'm not saying you can't do those things in passing, but that better not be your priority. Because see, what happens is when these folks move on us, then we want to sit up here and rally the troops and try to mobilize. We're supposed to be mobilized every day. We're supposed to be mobilized every day. I'm going to take one more call. Let me get caller from area code 843. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason. This is More Black from Beaufort, South Carolina.
All right, More Black from Beaufort. What's on your mind?
Hey, no, nothing much. I just wanted to thank you for bringing this up because I don't think people understand the value of land and that the wealth is in the land. Dr. Claude Anderson talked about that. And I've been following this story for, quite some time. And every time I hear, the things that are done there, I think of Mr. Anthony Crawford, Mr. Eli Henson, or Mr. July Perry, the people of Ocoee, all the things that they've done to terrorize Black people off of their land. So I just want to thank you for bringing attention to this because people just don't understand that all of the wealth is usually in the land. That's all I have. B1, Jason.
B1, thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. And having a plan, having a code, having an agenda, there's a reason why denying us land ownership, development ownership, that anchors you to the land, that anchors you to an area, that allows you to build a community. And community begins with commerce. Community does not begin with a house. Community begins with commerce. So when they see you setting up 640 acres for the purposes of commerce, even if it looks like yours is not very well organized, they're worried about what it could be in 5 or 10 years. They're worried about what that continued determination could be. White supremacy is about giving unearned benefits to white people simply on the basis of being white and deputizing and militarizing their services to be able to disassociate Black people and derail Black people from that is essential. I want young people to recognize what a Jim Crow system looks like today. It will not look like Bull Connor and Lincoln Rockwell and George Wallace standing in front of the schoolhouses. They're going to try to make it look like it's all legal. And then what the hell do you know? As soon as you send a television station to go ask a couple of questions, their whole damn story falls apart and they start behaving with the news station like the fascists and Nazis that they're being accused of being. If everything that they were saying were above board and on the level, they would just show you what's above board and on the level, and it would have consistency. But when you have something that is wildly inconsistent and inexplicable, that's white supremacy. You know what 2 plus 2 is supposed to equal, but when you're talking to them, it never equals 2 plus 2. Every time you turn around, it's some new, weird, crazy way of saying things. I'm white, and I say so. And even when you have them write down what the rules are, they come back the next day and say, okay, new rule, and you're flagging the paper in front of their faces. Hey, this is what you said yesterday. I got you documented. This is what you said. Yeah, new rule today, nigga. We're white and we say so. So this determines our attitude. This determines our attitude and our demeanor in response to these things. Don't be in denial. We're going to go ahead and wrap up tonight's program. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the haven of intelligent Black thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we're here. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go there and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, all available on DVD and streaming. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat. Thank you very much for your support. Thank all of you for being here. Make sure you like and share the program and subscribe. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, The Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.